Hey guys, it is Nick here with another Nick's Topics Dragon Ball What If Topic video for today. And today we are going in to part 14. I can't believe it's already that many parts in of my first Dragon Ball What If topic on this channel. And by the way, if you guys hear my voice kind of a little weak, it's because I got a sore throat, because I got the flu from seasons changing, so little heads up there, just in case anybody was wondering. Anyways, we're getting into part 14 of What If Hercule was a Z Fighter. Now, how would this impact the story, you might ask? Well, short answer, definitely a lot changes. A lot of events don't occur, and a lot of events are changed. Anyways, I have Hercule, instead of going to the Satan Dojo, pursuing his dream of becoming the world martial arts champion, instead going with Goku and Bulma on their trip to get the Dragon Balls, more or less, for Bulma, and him actually becoming lifelong friends with Goku, and basically becoming the next strongest, and, besides him. Anyways, he would also, besides all of his moves, learn the Wolf Fang Fist from Yamcha and the Kamehameha from Goku, mastering all of his original moves way earlier on. He would also go on to learn the Kaioken with Goku at King Kai's, and the Earthlings, of course, would learn it too, because they would all be training together, basically, now that Hercule was there. Anyways, we also get an interesting development between Kid Gohan and Videl meeting a lot sooner, which means that in this episode, which I'm going to talk about more, we're actually going to see them finally getting into a relationship. Anyways, to recap the last episode, for those of you who were confused as to the whole premise of the last episode and how that even occurred, I'm just going to recap it for those of you. Anyway, at Kami's lookout, a day or two before Dr. Gero and 19 attack the island, Kami has been making a plan because he feels like he's not being a good enough guardian and wants to do more for the group because they're all getting stronger. And he feels like they all could use another valuable ally. So, part of his plan, he tells Mr. Popo to get the Dragon Balls on, basically, it's night on Earth, so nobody suspects anything. Anyways, Shenron's summoned at the lookout, and he asks Kami for his youth to be restored. Thereby, in summation, King Piccolo also gets his youth back, but he's trapped in the evil containment wave rice cooker because Goku gave it to him after he sealed him away, after Roshi sealed him away. Anyways, Kami then goes to free King Piccolo. Why did he do this, you might ask, for those of you angry or confused at this little twist? Well, as I said, Kami wants another strong warrior to protect Earth, because everyone down on Earth might be strong, but they're going to need another ally eventually. And he also wants to see if Piccolo can be redeemed in some way, because I feel like this would happen along the lines if King Piccolo was not killed, or something along those lines. So he trains with King Piccolo in the Hyperbolic Time Chamber for a day, and they come out right whenever the Z Fighters enter the lookout after getting whomped by 16, 17, and 18. And when they see Kami, they're surprised. But even more surprised, Goku, Hercule, Yamcha, Krillin, and Tien mainly, that King Piccolo is there and young. But Kami would explain everything and that they need another ally. And everyone would go in the Hyperbolic Time Chamber to win against the androids. Goku and Gohan would get the grasps on Super Saiyan 2 quite effectively, a lot earlier on, and Vegeta would be close to Super Saiyan 2, but at this point he's just mastered Super Saiyan. He's almost a 2, but not quite. Anyways, all the Earthlings master their techniques and Kaioken with Hercule, not leaving him out in the dust any longer, because in case any of you wanted more relevance on him, since he's the main, point of the story, he decides it's time, besides all the moves he has, to pick up on some new ones. So, he asks Yamcha to teach him the Spirit Ball technique, him having learned 2 of Yamcha's moves by this point, and learns the multi-form from Tien, and also the Tri-Beam from Tien as well. So this would make 3 energy-based attacks, the Kamehameha, Tri-Beam, and Spirit Ball, all within Hercule. After their training is complete, with the Hyperbolic Time Trooper being upgraded, so everyone can go in at once, with their training being complete, they then convey on the scene and fight 17, 16, and 18. I say fight, but it's more like a massacre because the androids are completely overpowered. And right whenever they're about to, possibly be spared after begging for mercy, 18 mainly, King Piccolo doesn't care about this. And while he might be weaker than everybody else, his training with Kami and the Z-Fighters, reluctantly, off guard and injured, the androids stand no chance against King Piccolo's hyper-explosive wave. Now, Vegeta smirks at this because he feels like he would have done the same exact thing for them humiliating him before. I left off with the revelation that Present Cell lives because 16 only pushed Goku out of the lab. The lab didn't really get destroyed, and there's no future timeline, so the present cell is still going to matter here. There's no imperfect cell from Trunks' time because there's no future, but he's going to be relevant later on in the story. But it's going to be way later on, so push him to the side for now. Just know that he's alive. Anyways, we then get the time skip with the Android Saga being over and the Cell Saga never even happening. And this point, like I said before, Teen Gohan and Videl are finally going to get into a relationship bond together a lot earlier on, because I feel like this is the point where it would happen if they did meet, this early on. And Videl does learn Kaioken here, so don't think I'm pushing her to the side. She's a relevant fighter. It's just, I wanted to find a point to, mention her relevance more better. And also, notable thing, the Trunks from this timeline, it would be a teen by this point, because he was born pretty much back, in the Frieza Saga, or what would have been the Namek Saga. So, that means around this point in the story, Trunks here would be a teen. And by this point, I most definitely think that if this were the case, he would have mastered Super Saiyan 2 by this point in time, with his father maybe teaching him and everything else. And speaking of children, Goten, he's still relevant here as well, except he was born more or less, within the time skip of the androids. So by the time we get into the Buu arc, he's a little older than he was before, a little bit. And he would have possibly gotten Super Saiyan 2 by this point too, if not mastered Super Saiyan. Because, he was born a little bit earlier than he was originally, so I feel like he would have at least gotten Super Saiyan 2 by this point in time. Now, speaking of other fighters, King Piccolo here, he's not going to enter the tournament, because he's not really a good guy yet. He's gotten better, and the Z-Fighters are sorta kinda trusting him, but he's not going to enter the tournament for obvious reasons. But he thinks to himself, even though he's not a bad guy, it'd still be nice to have his old minions back. So, since he's training off on his own and not being really part of the team at this point for the tournament and everything, he decides to spawn all of his old children. Piano, Tambourine, and Cymbal, even getting a new one, Drum, because remember, Drum was never spawned in this timeline until this point in the story. So, he gets all of his minions back and just trains with them and is on his own, basically. Gets them stronger as well. Vegeta, having almost Super Saiyan 2 at the Cell Saga, or Android Saga, would have mastered the form by this point. Now, with all those facts out of the way, we get into one very noticeable change here. Since Hercule was never the World Martial Arts Champion and went with the Z-Fighters, that means the Hercule vs. Spopovich fight never happened, which in turn means that Spopovich is the World Martial Arts Champion. Because I feel like this would be the most logical assumption had Hercule not pursued his dream. So, the World Martial Arts Champion is Spopovich. So, we are not going to get Majin Spopovich here, I would feel. If Spopovich got the World Martial Arts Champion title, I don't think that, even with his arrogance and cockiness, I don't think that he would be turned into a Majin here. Because he has what he wants. Why would he even need to become a Majin, even if he is arrogant? Which also means that Yamu is going to be the only one who's the Majin at the tournament. But don't think that the Majin saga is going to end just like that. We're still going to get to some key points. Even with just Yamu. Anyways, Goten would then... The tournament would begin, and Goten would win the junior division, because he's the only strong one there. Trunks is too old by this point to enter the junior division. We then get to the scene where we meet Supreme Kai and Kibito, not knowing fully who they are at the time, with the difference being that Goku isn't dead here, so events would almost play out the same way, except not, like, a few minor changes. Anyways, since there's a lot more fighters entering, Yamcha would take the place of Pintar and fight Krillin in the first match, and Krillin would win here, because he's the stronger of the two, but it would still be a good fight. And then, we get to another noticeable change. Since there is no Piccolo at the tournament, the one who would be fighting the Supreme Kai is Videl. And she wouldn't know who the Supreme Kai is at this point in time, because Piccolo is the only one who had a grasp on it until Supreme Kai revealed himself. And Videl has been training a lot, and she's going to fight in the tournament a match sooner than before. Now, Supreme Kai, you can tell that Videl's strong, but warns her that looks can be deceiving, and that she should definitely concede. But Videl just thinks this to be like a cocky person thinking that he's all talk and no show, so she powers up into Kaioken, going into times 10, because I feel like she would have that at this point, and charges at Shin. But with his superior magical abilities, even with Videl's training and everything, Supreme Kai is definitely the better of the two. He's not trying to hurt her, but he just uses one of his special Kai techniques and just pushes her out of the ring, effectively. Then, we get to a very serious change. Hercule and Spopovich are going to fight here, a tournament later than what happened originally. And this is, like I said, not Majin Spopovich. Now, if you think that Spopovich is, just because he's stronger, he's going to magically win here, no. Hercule wins this by default. He doesn't even have to try against Spopovich. Think of it as the flashback of the match we saw in the original, except even more pathetic, because Hercule is just that much stronger. And Spopovich isn't going to become a Majin here, but he is still angry that he lost. Anyways, we then get to the match between Gohan and Kibito, and that would go per normal, except the fact that Yamu is the only one to take Gohan's energy. But Supreme Kai still seals him, so that's pretty much the only difference. Now, King Piccolo has sensed all this going on, and sees Yamu in a distant part flying towards the ship of Babidi. And I think that even though King Piccolo and his minions weren't relevant in the tournament, that something between Babidi and his men might come towards King Piccolo and his men. And that's where we're going to be leaving things for right now. This was mainly just a start into the Buu arc and to explain where everyone's levels and powers were at this point in the story. And I felt like it was relevant to mention that Spopovich was the World Martial Arts Champion instead of Hercule, because I feel like that was the most logical assumption that would happen in that case. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this part of the story. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And I'll see you guys next time.